Well, hello there, Seamus.
Hi, Piers.
Wow, excited again.
How could I not be excited for the apocalypse?
That's true. Is that what we're talking about again?
This is the second in a two-part series about
Mm.
the apocalypse, and I know yous all love to die. So here we are talking about it.
Game over. That's
This
it.
this one is this one's going to specifically deal with how you survive after the apocalypse
The
event.
post-apocalypse, some might say.
Some might say probably a better term, but here we are.
Yeah?
So we're gonna take it from an individual standpoint, and then we're gonna like discuss it from a societal standpoint. I think from after that, right? So some apocalyptic event has happened. God knows what it is. Could be a meteor. Could be nukes. Could be zombies. Could be anything, right? But you're there. You're a survivor alone, and for some reason you haven't decided to kill yourself yet. And we don't
We don't know why,
Yeah, it's,
but you're like, no, I'm going to cling to life. I'm going to cling to this barren earth, this
everything
wasteland,
everything around you is desolate.
this despoiled paradise.
Dystopia.
It's not even dystopia. This is post-dystopia.
Oh, okay.
Post-dystopia.
Oh, no. It's bad. It's bad anyway, right? So you're looking around, you don't know what to do, right? You've got a good few options, right? It's actually crazy when you think about it, right? So how much we rely on the stuff around us now. So the way I look at it is, if you were to go back in the past, and you were to say, to a board of inventors or whatever, you say, we've great things in the future. You know, we've phones and so we can communicate all around the world, and like we've got this thing that plugs into our kitchen and we can cook food on it. Or like, yeah, that's great. Like, how does it work? It's like, oh yeah, electricity.
Oh, but how does that work?
Stumped. Even like
Yeah.
us who study physics, you know, if you think about electricity production, which is going to be one of the things you have to think about, how do you even start? Where do you begin?
Yeah, and we're assuming you're starting from scratch here, right? So, like, there's always the potential you could find some generator somewhere or something like that. But there's strong likelihood that a lot of that stuff's just going to be broken down.
Yeah,
So, imagine you're starting from the beginning, right? You don't have... First of all, most people are just screwed, right? Forget even, like, trying to make any electricity production or anything. Like, most people don't have guns, don't have anything. Don't have
no
even,
way of catching. No
don't have
knowledge.
knowledge of how to hunt animals, don't have knowledge of how to catch fish, don't have knowledge about how to grow crops of any kind, don't have the equipment to do any of this. So most people are dead. End of story.
Yeah, well, city people, unless they eat other people, the
Or
charred remains.
Whatever
Well,
supplies.
and realistically, anybody in a city is screwed anyway.
Yeah,
Because
yeah, you've pretty got hit.
apocalyptic events happen weighted towards the city. You know, nuclear is going to strike the city. Yeah, if it's a pandemic, cities
City.
breed disease easier, and you don't want to be eating diseased meat anyway. If you turn cannibalistic, like, but yeah. So you have to figure out all these things, and yeah, first thing you're going to think about is food and water. I suppose before electricity. You're right, Pierce. And the way to do that is you're going to have to farm, and you're going to have to do. So you try and find like scraps of different stuff around society and or around like your city. And you said about the generator there, and you might find one, you might get lucky, but realistically, even using a generator, you'd have to have petrol. So
Yeah, yeah, you
these
have
are
to find
huge
petrol.
treks and stuff like that. If it's a EMP related disaster, you're not going to be able to use your car.
Yeah, so obviously in the initial scramble, a lot of that stuff is going to be taken. But like I think we're talking like a few years down the line. Say you've re-emerged
Okay.
from whatever hole you were hiding in, and just the world is barren.
You've eaten all of your family members.
Right. But
Right.
so imagine for the sake of then like this like society's collapsed, but animals are still alive, so there's still like deer stuff like that. You have
Okay.
to start trying to catch animals first. How do you go about that?
Well, it's kind of wiped you back to the Stone Age society. And this is something we were talking about last time on like why apocalypses scare us so much is because civilization as we know it is gone, and all of the technologies, unless you find like you stumble into a library and research like ancient techniques on how to relearn like how spears worked or something like that, you're gonna have to start do all this kind of stuff again. I think the hunting and the is one of the most primitive things. So like you get to grips with that pretty quickly or die. Like
Yeah, well, you're naturally evolved to do it too, right? So there'll be some party that'll kind of just get it intuitively, like throw sharp thing at moving object,
Yeah.
kill.
yeah, or traps. You know that's less intuitive, but it's still pretty intuitive. If
Yeah,
maybe
just
you
dig a
throw,
hole.
leaves.
Put some sharp sticks at the bottom of it.
Exactly. But then you've got to worry about your water, and how to use that. And as Pierce said in the last one, actually, your water's probably going to be contaminated. You're going to have to find some sort of way of purifying it. Whether that's true, I don't know.
Well, you probably have to dig a well, right?
Yeah.
Underground rivers. That's probably the
Yeah,
only way.
that's
You have to
actually-
dig a well. More
But
than likely.
so you say, for instance, now you've got water. You've somehow managed to continually catch food. You might just be eating oak leaves off the tree or something like that. You're surviving.
Farming oats, making porridge.
What you want to do next is you want to actually start to kick up. You kick up like your normal standard of living. You know, you're gonna build a house. You're gonna want things in the house, stuff like that. You're gonna.
I think so for building a house, obviously you could just, there might be still houses standing, so you can just
Yeah.
use one of those. But if you're actually building a house, constructing one, I think wattle and daub would probably be the best way to go.
the posts and then you wrap reeds through it.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like-
yeah.
like-
So
like
it's
salamander
like
and-
you mix you get clay and mud, and you build a frame out of sticks and stuff, and then you stick the mud and leaves and stuff on either side of it, and just let it dry. Hopefully you can let it dry. You know, it's not too wet or whatever.
It's crazy to think how vulnerable you'd be. Like,
Yeah, I think that's the main thrust of this whole episode that we're going to be doing. It's just how vulnerable people are today.
see, if you you've somehow managed to drink water, you've got like a mud hut, and
Yeah.
you've got whatever. That's
Presumably you
what
have fire as well. You
Yeah.
need fire. You're
Oh.
dead without fire.
Well, almost forgot about that. You straight away need fire to purify your water and stuff as well. But this all makes you so vulnerable. The only thing that's going to make you less vulnerable is finding people.
Yeah.
Which should be your, like, if you
Finding
if-
people who like you as well.
not even that, just like in an apocalyptic world, a post-apocalyptic world, that would be one of the main things. If you just survive by yourself, do other people exist? And then if you hadn't come to contact with them yet, if you're in a small cluster, you try and find other people.
Are
other small
you gonna
clusters.
want to survive if there's no other people around? Like,
Exactly.
Probably
what,
not.
What is the world? Let the
Yeah.
next generation of animals.
I'm sure there's a few people who'd be okay with living out the rest of their days on their own, but I think most people, 99.9%, would require other human contact
Yeah.
in order to even want to live. So yeah, you're right. So you have to find people next.
Even just for safety,
Yeah.
regardless of whether you want to live or not, you need them for safety.
Especially in countries where there's like large predators, you know, wolves,
Mountain lions.
mountain lions, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Mutated bears.
Mutated
with
bears.
6 arms. And you spit molten nuclear waste out.
The battered remnants of the Soviet invasion forces.
Yeah.
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 Wait, what?
Yeah.
But yeah, you have to find them, and that's when you can start to try and rebuild infrastructure, and where electricity comes into play. Electricity is made by dynamos pretty much in all of our society, except for nuclear and solar. But there is absolutely no chance of you just getting
Nuclear and
It's
solar.
like, oh, I found the plans to a nuclear reactor, guys. Let's just do that right now.
I'm just gonna build a solar panel. I'm just gonna build a solar panel.
Yeah, it's solar panels made of like loads of
Rare
different-
earth metals,
Yeah, titanium
yeah.
dioxide, and you need like catalyst and stuff. You're just not
Require a
doing
silicon
it.
chip to moderate the electric flow. Yeah.
You're not doing it. So you try and get back to like the most basic, which is like steam, and then you use the steam to turn turbines, and then from that to make electricity. But you think about that again. What is the turbines made of? Like there's a dynamo inside, which is magnets and coil, and like okay, yeah, that's fine. It's like, oh, you understand that works. You found a book, and you're like, oh yeah, we need magnets, we need coil. Okay, we got coil here. Where do you get a magnet? Like just think about what a magnet is. Like
How are you gonna find that?
Yeah, everybody knows the magnet. Oh, it sticks to your fridge, so on and so forth. Like, but what do you mine for it? It's a piece of metal, but like it's not necessarily magnetic. You just
Is it
stumble upon.
Is this one magnetized through other electricity, or was this mined?
Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, you need you can. You can make magnets by using electricity. You
don't
need
have that, though.
electricity, yeah. So you really are just absolutely screwed until you start the process of industry again.
So you have to open a magnet mine, is what we're saying first.
I don't know. I'd say scavenging for magnets is probably the best. And scavenging for dynamos.
Yeah, you're
is-
gonna have to pull them out of cars. Pull them out of just any kind of equipment, any kind of construction equipment, that kind of thing. You probably would be a good
Yeah,
bet.
you can even do small ones. Like there's small ones in little turbines and stuff like that. You know, motors as well would be really
Yeah,
necessary.
yeah. I guess I was kind of thinking in terms of, but actually, like if you're trying to power a hut or something, you might need
Yeah.
something out of a car. You have something relatively large.
Yeah. It's just for a light bulb or something.
Yeah,
like that.
yeah, literally, like yeah.
Why, like?
That's another thing. Light bulbs. You
Yeah.
have to make that filament yourself. How do you
Yeah.
go about that?
Just forget about LEDs. You're not going to be able to use them. Unless actually, they would be one of the easiest if you found them. That'd be a lot easier to.
Well, that's a big thing that would play into this. You might be able to find like a lot of caches or whatever of like particular types of equipment
Yeah.
that you might need to find. So yeah, presumably, like especially if you're in a more remote area, it might be easier to scavenge for some stuff because sure there's less people out there, but it probably also means that there's less people who've passed through, so there's less of the items that you need have already been taken.
Yeah. So you've got your society starting to build up. You got a group of people. You're all moving around nomadically together. You've got light bulbs. Congratulations.
That's an interesting point, actually. I wonder, is the best way to do it a sedentary or nomadic?
No, it's
Probably
definitely
nomadic for the start. Yeah,
You have to.
You want to avoid the roving bands of raiders.
Also, yeah, the more you stay put, the most chance you have of being invaded by either other people who want your stuff or animals.
Also, the more chance you have of just running out of resources.
Exactly.
Yeah, it is an interesting point, actually. We probably just would have to revert to being hunter-gatherers.
But at the same time, you could wander. You're in wherever now, and you'd be like, okay. Presumably, you'd have some sort of knowledge of the terrain because you used to live there.
Live there, yeah.
Or,
You'd hope.
You'd hope so. So
How many people in Dublin do you reckon have knowledge of the train just outside of Dublin?
Fair enough.
Yeah,
Fair enough.
it's
And
not
like,
many.
and how, what's north, what's east, like, you know what I mean? Like, is that just east?
How do you pick it out?
You'd have to find maps and like. So
Find a
if you
compass.
knew that like Dundrum was that way, oh, it's just south of whatever.
Yeah.
Like realistically, like how south is south? Do you don't have a compass? Or if you did, like the Earth's magnetic field could be smashed up like from like the solar flares or whatever. Like
So it might be all over the shop. I hadn't even considered that. Yeah, your compass might not even function correctly.
It could
It's
be
a solar
crazy.
flare event.
But anyway, so you're gone, you're traveling, and you'd have to, but it could easily end you up in the middle of nowhere. You know, you could end up in the Knoll or something like. You know what I mean?
The burn.
The burn.
The
Can't eat
depths of the burn.
there. And like, oh great, we've limestone now, but nothing else. No technology, no food. And I'd say at this stage as well, animals would have absolutely just thrived. It'd be like from the point where we'd be living in caves, as you said, to the point where they get out, they'd be king now.
Well, the big thing about animals is we've wiped out a lot of large predators, especially in the Western world. I think there's very few large predators left in our landscapes because we just killed them all off. So the herbivores would really thrive. You'd have huge herds of deer and stuff like that because there's nothing hunting them because we're all that hunts them now. Really.
Yeah.
Or like keeps them contained or whatever. So here in Ireland you'd have deer. So probably on the continent as well you'd have a lot of deer. Yeah, well cows. Yeah, well they'd probably not do too well.
Yeah.
But in America you'd have all sorts of crazy stuff. Buffalo, massive.
There'd be bears
Bears,
everywhere,
yeah.
mountain lions, bobcats,
Yeah.
stuff like
Africa, the elephant population would explode. How would you deal with that?
that. Yeah.
Can you even bring down an elephant after?
Hippos,
Yeah. Yeah.
alligators everywhere.
Yeah.
But that's another thing as well. Like, the water could be completely toxic too. You know, as we said before. So like,
Depending on which particular situation we're talking about.
yeah.
You know,
this is all very
This is the
vague, I
time of year.
suppose.
Because with a pandemic, it might just be humans that are getting killed, so everything else
Yeah.
is fine. But yeah, with a nuclear war, the environment changes.
yeah.
With an asteroid, the environment changes. Yeah,
So I think you would have to be nomadic just to find new
just
stuff.
in case. Yeah.
But how do you keep order in your little group?
Well, you're going to have to revert to some kind of authoritarian system for sure. Like this whole, I mean, I guess you could be like a little tribe and take votes on things and stuff. But realistically, if you're going to try and make any kind of larger society, it's going to have to be authoritarian, just to
Yeah.
weld it together initially.
Exactly, because you're like, okay, guys, like imagine apocalyptic society where PC guy is right there and he's like, okay, so guys, we're gonna just have a little vote and we're gonna see who's gonna be, king of society or whatever. And like, oh yeah, grand, and they do it, and someone just then stabs that person in their sleep and it's like, I'm king now.
Yeah.
That's like, okay,
Okay.
all right,
Yeah, you have to assume that like a lot of traditional morality would probably be out the window because
Yeah.
it's survival instincts that you're running on now.
Yeah.
And especially, so an interesting thing I would think of is how governments would have to respond if some
if existed
events
yeah.
happen. Yeah, so whatever remnants of the governments are left, do they try to take charge? do they use the military, and the military just says, okay, it's time for martial law now, and that's it. It's the only way to organize society successfully. So obviously, a lot of the laws that governments operate under would just have to be chucked out, because you're going to have hordes of people looking for food, and you're going to have to maintain order. So a lot of human rights are just going to have to go out the window.
Yeah, well, there's no space for, I don't know, someone's sensitivity in a post-apocalyptic world.
Yeah.
It's like, oh no, I didn't get to do this, whatever. It's like, yeah, well, people need to eat.
Tough. We need farmers.
And you need to enact, I think, almost cruelty to keep your population in line, because, if you were a ruler, because sharing of resources would be such a huge problem. So, see, this is the thing, for the first while, your tribe or whatever, nomadically, why would just eat whatever they came across straight away, So you'd want to start stockpiling and stuff like that, but people would just be selfish, obviously, because self-preservation. And how do you justify it to the people that why you just found this, you just come across, I don't know, from some supermarket, and you wanted to eat all the stuff in there or whatever, why it's not a good idea to do that, and not be selfish. That's how society would have to start,
And what happens then?
Altruistic.
If you're like in this little group or whatever, survivors, and you've kind of figured out how you're ruling each other and stuff, and how it's all worked out, and then you run into the remnants of the government that was in charge of whatever country you're in, right? And so do you submit to that their rule then? Are you like, okay, well, the government still has claim over this land, or do you try to be independent? Could you even be, because they probably have whatever is left of the military on their side, so you probably just get integrated right into that by force.
Yeah, but
right?
See, how do they even? So they're like, okay, now you're part of us. Do you start are you going to be there roving guard, or do you just stay put there?
Well, no, presumably they would.
Don't worry, we're going to send infrastructure this way. It's like, yeah, good one. I've been that way, and I've never seen any infrastructure. You know, I can't imagine that it'd be very
Well, they would be attempting to reorganize the entire economy, right? So they'd be gearing it towards farming, presumably, and stuff like that straight away. So you probably would just have to force people into jobs that they don't want to do.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, if you want to maintain it.
I think America would be a completely different scenario as well, because your forces could be the same as the government's.
Well, it's such America's hard because it's such a big country, so completely separate things could be happening in different parts of the country.
Yeah.
Different times. Around Washington there could still be significant government control or whatever, but out in the mountains in the Rockies there's probably not much going on.
Yeah. Why would we risk to go up there?
What's the point? So you just have there's probably madmen that live out there anyway, but more of them now.
Dan, you got to deal with basically civil war then.
Oh, it's way past civil war. Civil war is good compared to this because you have two functional societies going at it there.
Two groups that just want to battle there, but it'd just be completely tribal, and you'd have to make decisions in yourself about what kind of leader you want to be under or are to function in the new world that you're doing. Probably you just go with whoever has most resources. That'd be me. I'd be like, you have most resources. That's probably
you're in charge. Well, that's usually the way it goes anyway.
Yeah.
Traditionally speaking, leaders are just whoever. A king is just the person who has the monopoly on resources in that area, or the majority of them. Right? Tribal leader, probably the same thing. Although if it's in smaller groups, you probably can do some form of direct democracy, where everybody just votes. So if it's about 100, if up to 100 people, everybody votes, and that would actually work. Anything bigger than that, you're going to have to start have one particular leader in charge to hold it all together.
You think about it as well. So who enacts the punishment? Who says that's fair?
Yeah,
right. You'd have to retroactively work through whatever your memory of the last society was like.
Are you okay with that? Yeah.
We used to not kill people. I was like, times have changed, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and is it okay? Is it okay just doing mob rule? So if everybody votes to kill one person, is that okay?
Yeah.
Right.
Just like Jesus.
Yeah.
Or it's what punishment is okay,
Yeah.
It's we're gonna flay this person now. We're just gonna whip them until they die. That's against human rights. It's like, well, half of you aren't even humans anymore.
It's against what?
Exactly. It would be completely different.
You might have to migrate as well. If it's environmental collapse, say you might have to migrate, say north or south. Maybe it's getting too cold or too warm. You might have to try and escape whatever country you're actually in.
It'd be so weird not knowing that there was like not receiving that through communication as well.
Yeah, you've no weather reports anymore.
And always conscious that there could be another event just around the corner, like whatever it was, especially if it's like a pandemic or a meteor.
Mm-hmm.
You'd be like, oh well, there's definitely another one. You'd be so skeptical.
Yeah.
You know, you get a lot of crazy people as well. So people that survived but like are really shook up, like got a lot of PTSD from it or physical stuff.
Yeah.
You're like, oh no. You got to do it. You got to really trust your people well, I suppose.
So I'd like to advance the plot line here a few years down the road. So imagine you finally like stabilized some society or whatever. It might be the remnants of the government that has done it. It might be just some group that have managed to form into a pretty successful, cohesive tribe or whatever. And you're trying to
Can I just for 1 second as
Yeah.
well? It actually could be the case that the people who alienated themselves from society in the first place become the new leaders of the new society because they were less affected by the thing. So like, you know, Amazonian tribes or something like that.
Yeah.
We could live under their society now because, well, they never got affected by it. And, you know, their society still works. And we're like, oh, well, if they still work.
That's an interesting little thought that it would be like if there was a truly stupendous calamity that the only people who would survive might just be hunter-gatherers like that.
Yeah.
You know, people who just, if the environment doesn't change that much, they'll be okay because they just know how to live.
Yeah, and now you have to eat every third child you have, and it's just the way it
That's
is.
just it, like, yep, you just have to eat every third child. That's it.
Anyway, sorry, man, you're going to further the plot.
So,
line.
yeah, so imagine you've got some kind of cohesive force around. How do you begin to rebuild society? So, first of all, do you construct the buildings in the same way you used to, or do you immediately go to start building bunkers? Like, do you start building bunkers straight away, start building underground in case something else happens?
That's what they think happened to Egypt, wasn't it? So, like, they think there was a huge event that, like, caused the ancient Egyptians, like, not just... so it was the old kingdom and the new kingdom, right?
Yeah,
Wasn't there an event that happened between them where, like, they don't know, but, like, the civilization collapsed. But the new kingdom just rebuilt the stuff that the old people had in a different way, like.
I think so, yeah. I'm not exactly sure about the Egyptians, but I know it's in Central America, for instance, that like a lot of those pyramids actually weren't built by the Aztecs or the Inca. They were built by this previous civilization called the Olmecs, and they just disappeared. And then they moved in and just kind of...
Oh, nice pyramids, guys.
But this was like 1,000 years beforehand the Olmecs collapsed, and you know the Aztecs were just like, oh, and then they started copying the Olmec design, so they built their own pyramids, but they were of Olmec design, just slightly different.
Well,
yeah. So you can see some, So I guess the easiest thing to do, now that you mentioned it, the easiest thing to do might be to just replicate what people were doing. But would you want to? So I'd say if it was asteroids or something, you'd probably just start building bunkers straight away, or a solar flare. Anything that comes from the sky, you're going to start building underground, I think.
Yeah.
Straight away.
Yeah. But you said like from the start that we've got out of underground, but as a preventative measure.
Yeah. So if you're reconstructing how you build, you're redesigning how you build towns and stuff, you're probably going to be it's going to be a really paranoid mindset. So the safest place to build is usually underground, like not that deep, but you know, a few meters or whatever. Yeah, into a mountain. Now, it's hard to do. Do you even have concrete manufacture anymore? You know, so
Power tools.
maybe not. Like you can make the Romans made concrete without any of that, so maybe you could make concrete, which would be a big bonus. But yeah, I suspect there will be a lot of, if not underground, then I'm pretty sure a lot of buildings initially will be very fortified, like they're fort towns, kind of. You can imagine being built.
Yeah. Very like very castle-y and like a clear perimeter and then wasteland. You know.
Yeah, it would almost be a modern take on castles, though. You know,
Yeah.
it would be like they're probably concrete. Something like that. It mightn't even be necessarily to guard against other humans. It might just be some kind of environmental thing. So you build high walls to prevent flooding.
I can see that it being in previously urbanized areas though. So like because all the resources are there. You know what I mean? Like so you've obviously moved out of those at the start because
presumably they haven't been nuked.
Yeah, exactly. But then this place has lots of bricks. So they're not going to be the same buildings, but they might reuse parts of it.
Oh yeah, they've pulled out the old ones and reconstruct. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so like you're not going to rebuild the Empire State Building because what's the purpose? You know what I mean? And plus, you wouldn't really want to be that high anyway. Like
because you've no way of doing maintenance on it.
Yeah, and there's no way like you're just gonna have to. It doesn't work the same way. You don't have to just go downstairs to the coffee shop and get food. You know what I mean? So if you're living on the 64th floor of somewhere. No, you want to be at ground level. So
first of all, you have to walk down all the stairs because the elevator's not working.
Yeah, there's all your energy gone that you've got from that small bunny that you ate for breakfast there. You know what I mean? So you have to be at ground level, like, so it doesn't seem advantageous to build up. It just seems so
No,
like that.
I mean a few stories, maybe 3 stories, something like that.
Yeah.
Because you might want to build up high. Maybe there's some kind of
protect.
environmental thing, flooding, whatever, predators.
Predators.
Yeah, predators.
Alien versus Predator.
I mean, maybe. Yeah, I mean, if it's that, then we're screwed. But yeah, or even just again like roving bands of people or whatever. I am definitely thinking it would be fortified towns though. Is how it would if you're just building towns from scratch in that environment. It's going to be fortified.
I think when you get to the town stage where you've decided somewhere is habitable enough for you to stay there for a long time, that's when things would really start to pick up.
Yeah.
So that's when your technology would start to increase.
You have stable food income presumably as well.
Yeah,
land
presumably
being
outside
farmed.
the town is going to be farming land and stuff like that. And there's going to be some sort of river close to you or something like that.
I also imagine that's when it gets quite authoritarian. It'd be pretty much like medieval France, just loads of fort towns springing up around different places.
Yeah.
You might have different rulers in each town, that kind of thing.
So much knowledge would be lost though as well.
Yeah.
Because like I'd say a lot of kingdoms would happen like.
Absolutely.
Like, I'm in charge now. I'm going to let my son be in charge.
Well, they have all the resources, and maybe people with knowledge of how to build things. That's one thing I don't think we'd lose much knowledge of how to build things.
Really?
There's so many people that do know how to construct. Now, I'm not talking about building the laptop there, but just actually constructing buildings
and stuff like that.
I think we'd be pretty okay there.
Yeah, I think maybe, but like your society, your little town might not have all of the knowledge, like, so like you might have a bricklayer, but you might not necessarily have a plumber.
Yeah, so you might not have a functional sewage system or whatever.
Yeah, and even a plumber might not know how to construct a sewage system.
Yeah. Or just have the materials.
It's like we can use a laptop, but we don't necessarily know how to build it. It's like the thing. But that leads to a lot of creativity as well, like in new ways of like starting from scratch and thinking about problems again. And so with so much knowledge, like physics and philosophy and stuff like that, just goes out the door. Art, forget about that, you know what I mean? Well, until you actually start to get enough food and things like that.
Yeah, so you need the necessary resources to actually permit that, right? So you need to be producing paper first of all, and enough paper.
It kind of is a real point about how fragile our societies are for no reason, like, because like I was just thinking about art there, and the fact that we do love it and we need it and stuff like that, but people and like like social justice warriors and stuff like that, like for human rights and for social issues, it's just completely unnecessary in a society like that, and just would not be tolerated, shut down completely. Like art would eventually come in before social social issues will be resurrected. Because people need art. It's like the Romans would like give them bread and circus, and we'll be fine. Like
games, that kind of thing.
Exactly. Yeah. We needed to keep ourselves entertained, but like, what even would that art exist like? It would be completely different than what existed before. Developed from a new way. And
well, it's a new mindset. So art is often a representation of what the culture is thinking at the time. So your culture is going to be very paranoid, very focused on survival, very maybe optimistic because they are trying to rebuild. So there's probably a bit of optimism there, but it'd be the art would be quite striking, I'd imagine. Quite melancholy as well.
I'd say so too. But for like society, it wouldn't need to be. No one will be considering their meaning in the world. Like, there wouldn't be philosophers.
Well, that's because they have a meaning. They all have a meaning, right?
Exactly. They'd be just working and trying to eat and stuff like that. So no one will be sitting around and be like, I'm so sad because I don't really know why I'm here and stuff like that.
No, your purpose is to dig crops.
Yeah.
That's it. Like, your purpose is to lay bricks. That's your purpose.
That's it. Like, so it would do a huge shake.
I wonder would a lot of people be happier?
I'd say a lot of people would.
Not even more happy, but like fulfilled, because they actually feel like they're playing a role and they can see that they're playing a role in society.
Yeah, a lot of people live very hard lives but are fulfilled. Like,
yeah.
I think it'd be one of the major things they'd have to get back in, like alcohol.
Oh, that wouldn't be that hard.
No, but
as soon as we get wheat, we're back on that.
No, but you know what I mean. Like, that'd be one of the major things they'd really try. They'd be
okay,
well, it's been long enough. Let's get beer. Like, let's get it now.
Oh yeah.
Because that's something that throughout history is like quelled.
I mean, as soon as you have the spud, you have alcohol, so it's fine.
Yeah. Or like you make from anything.
Yeah.
like from wild berries and
How
stuff.
many types of alcohol would be being made? It would probably regress to just vodka and mead. pretty
Beer and
much.
stuff like that.
Beer,
But
yeah.
even still, like, I'm sure
Wine, actually. Why am I talking about wine? Would be pretty easy to make.
Yeah, from
Yeah.
grapes and stuff.
Yeah.
But I have a rudimentary knowledge, maybe like fermentation and stuff. But that whole process, like, I'm sure alcohol would taste so bad for so long.
Oh, yeah.
Because unless you had a brewer or like
Everything tastes bad, though,
that's-
Seamus. It's the apocalypse.
Oh yeah.
It's all tastes of
Oh
dust.
yeah, I forgot about that. Like taste, what is that?
Dust and decay.
You've had your taste buds burnt off, like in the nuclear winter. Like.
Can't taste anymore. It doesn't taste.
Yeah, so it's from that point you just kind of have to take a stance.
That's an interesting point that I think would affect people who came from a previously prosperous society into that kind of society, is the types of foods you'd be eating. I think that, so we're so used to having really nice foods here in the West, like such a variety of food, sauces on our foods, spices, all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
We're getting and that I think that actually, like, psychologically, that adds to people's happiness quite a bit. You're getting all these tastes,
Yeah, yeah.
like, it is important.
And
If you have all that
yeah.
just shut down and you're eating spuds, rice, you know, maybe some meat and a few leafy greens and just no seasoning, anything on top of it. 'Cause think
Yeah.
about where does all the seasoning come from? It comes from different countries.
Yeah,
usually.
pepper. Where does that come
Yeah,
from?
yeah.
India or somewhere, you know.
Yeah. So like that would probably be a psychological factor that would probably get a lot of people down, I would imagine.
That's actually a really interesting thing as well, man.
Yeah.
Firstly, like, so I was thinking about salt there, yeah.
Mhm.
Salt you get from the sea and stuff like that, but we'd regress to that being currency, and like there'd be a barter system. What would you even trade?
That's an
you know?
excellent point.
Yeah,
What
yeah.
currencies would we use? So your paper money is going to be virtually worthless.
Oh, burnt up immediately.
So it will start obviously as just as bartering, but I wonder once you finally decide, okay, we have to make a currency in order to make the society function. I wonder what type of currency you'd use. Would you go back to the old way of doing it and use precious metals, or would you use kind of new stuff, maybe like lithium or some kind of
Yeah.
rare earth metals, maybe?
Something from the fallout.
Yeah. Some before the fall. I wonder what you would use for currency. It would definitely be physical for sure. I would think.
It'd have to be, but yeah, barter would be a thing for so long.
Yeah.
Like, you have a warm coat, I have a loaf of bread.
You've a warm coat. I've got a sheep.
Let's do this thing.
There you go.
And yeah, well, it would obviously be physical currency.
Yeah. I wonder, precious metals. Do you think that would make sense?
Yeah, I
It's
mean,
the way it was done before.
paper as well. Just the idea of producing paper would be very hard.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it took so long for humans to actually invent paper. Like, what do you like? Think about just actually think about that at home. Just think about how to make paper. Like,
How do you
okay,
make paper?
there's a tree there. I'll give you 20 years. Make me some paper. Don't look up anything online because you can't. You're sitting there by the river.
Figure it out.
Okay, you chop it down. You might get really thin pieces of wood or whatever if you get real good at it. But that's not paper. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
It's
What they
thin
do
piece
is,
of
like, I
wood.
think they mulch it up and they dry it out and spread it with like really thin rollers. You can't do that. Like, Egyptians had papyrus. You know, what did Chinese use?
Can't remember. The Romans used clay tablets. I can't remember what the Chinese used.
Yeah, so you definitely
Or
can
wax
have-
tablets, I should say.
That's another interesting point. How to spread information then, because you don't paper.
Can you make a printing press? Where do you get the ink?
Where's the paper? Where's the
Where'd you get ink to write on?
how do you get that good at forging that you can have
Right.
little
Yeah.
metal like things? It's so weird. It's so weird to even think about society breaking down this much. I'm not even sure what like this apocalyptic. It might as well just be a history of the world right now. We're doing like
Yeah.
like it's weird that we prioritize it so much. Like, I don't. And to think about, like, I don't think anybody would miss social media. I don't think anybody would be in there and be like,
You have no
"Oh,
time to.
I really want to put up a picture on Facebook of the apocalypse here. It's really good, yeah.
But I think like with many of our discussions, the apocalypse is like a useful tool
Yeah.
to explore some of the just things about the world we live in. And so yeah, we've got such a specialization of knowledge these days, which is very good for running an economy because that leads to innovation in a
Yeah,
big
yeah.
way. So you get this specialization of labor is like the key to modern civilization. It's okay. There's lots of very complex things, but we can train people to do these very complex things, so they get really good at this. And then like there's other people that do all the other tasks, so that's fine. But there's so few of us, including ourselves here, know how to do most of what's required to stay alive. I think that's really what we're pointing out here. If any of us get put outside of this environment, we can't really survive.
Which I think, like, us not having to do everything all the time. You know what I mean? Me not having to be a good wheat farmer, as well as like cook, as well as hunt and everything as well, is a good thing.
Oh, absolutely.
I can
It's
focus
100% a good
my
thing,
attention on whatever. But yeah, at the same time, it kind of dilutes you as well, and you just become unskilled. Like there's lots of people nowadays who wouldn't be good at anything, even though they have the opportunity to be solely focused, good at one thing.
Yeah.
Which is sad, I suppose. But don't worry, in the apocalypse, they're going to be the first ones eaten by bears.
Yeah.
So it's grand.
That includes you, dear listener.
Enjoy.
But yeah, no, it's just a useful thing to think about. It is terrifying.
I wonder how long we'd be like that as well. You know, because we've taken small measures to preserve humanity, but like we don't really know anything about the ancient civilizations or how technological advance they'd be like. You know, I was listening to a Joe Rogan podcast there, and they were talking about like how they build the pyramids, right? And like people are like, why is there no tools around? Like there's no, he said like there's no hammer in the Empire State Building. Like you wouldn't be able to like find that there. And it's so true. Like if they found any of our technology, they wouldn't know how to make it. Just like we don't know how they put the stones in properly in different civilizations. Like, I wonder how long.
We've got different theories about how it worked, but we don't actually know exactly how they did it. Yeah.
In the process of rebuilding our society, would we have destroyed enough recklessly about the old society that we wouldn't have any knowledge of it backwards?
Good point. So if you're sitting there, again, just go back to the Empire State Building, you're looking at the Empire State Building, you have a vague idea of how they built it, right? So maybe even somebody who remembers, they're like, okay, right, so there was cranes, they definitely used to use cranes, the skyscrapers, they pick up heavy metal things and heavy stone things and put it up there.
But now we've melted all the cranes, so we could use them for something else, and there's no models of cranes left.
But it's not even that, it's like, you have this vague idea of how somebody built your house, but you've no idea how they actually built your house. You've got, okay, they put blocks down and they use cement, and they put wiring through. But there's all these different techniques that you have to use. So much of that would cost.
Here's such a good example. Last night I got locked out of my room. Like I forgot my keys, and it was my bedroom, and I was trying to open the lock, and I was like, I use a key every day. Like it wasn't even. It was like one of those Chubb locks, so it was like one of those thick keys, so it was the easiest ones to break. And I was like, I have no idea. Like inside there, I know there's pins or something. I've heard about that before. Like furiously googling online like how to pick locks. But I have absolutely no idea how to do it. It's like if your car breaks over at the side of the road, you take it up. You know what things are, but you just might as well just put up your hands in the air. You've no idea how to fix it.
It's such a thing that you take. The lock is an excellent example. It's such a thing you take for granted. I put the key in, I turn it.
It's been around for hundreds of years. Like
so you place the key in, you turn it, it opens. Right? It's like, oh great, that's how a lock works. I turn the key and it opens. Oh yeah, okay, but like how does it lock? Like what's the mechanism? Why does turning the key?
Why does that key work and that
key doesn't work? Yeah. But even more rudimentary than that, how does turning the key cause the lock to open and then turn it again cause it to close? There's so much of this stuff, and we have an individual specialist people for every single thing, and if you're even missing a few of those people, the whole thing goes.
Yeah. Especially you can say that, but like even like people doing computer programming now. They don't need to understand like what they did in the 80s, right?
Yeah.
They don't need to, because it wouldn't, like they just spent loads of time, and plus it's already been done, so let's just move on.
That's one that really worries me actually. What happens if the computers get wiped out and it's like, oh, we have to start from binary now?
That's what we should do. We should just have like an AI overlord that just rebuilds society for us.
I mean, he got taken out by the EMP, so.
He was the EMP.
He was the EMP. Just detonated.
I think that's a nice place to wrap it up, actually.
You think, yeah?
Yeah, I think it's a good one. That was actually a very interesting one. It was more like a history of society, but
pretty existential. Yeah, but just before, I'd just like to remark on that again, before we go. The real point we were trying to get at there, I think, and almost accidentally, is that there's so much around us today. It doesn't matter how knowledgeable you are as a person. Like, there's so many smart people out there who still don't really understand how much around you works, or how things around you work, and we just take it for granted.
You can't.
You get in a car, you turn your car on, it moves. Like the traffic lights work. There's a parking space for you there, and there's no one individual or even group of individuals who understand how the entire the entirety of all of it works.
You come home, you cook with vegetables, you've no idea how they got there, got processed, and you sit down in front of a TV. Electricity's just streaming through.
You flick on you flick on the lights, flick on the TV, the electricity works. Oh, where did the electricity come from?
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Pictures are on your TV for some reason, and
Yeah.
you have no idea why, and then you plug your face into a smartphone.
We all just take it for granted. It's because you can't even blame us for it. It's just the environment we grew up in.
Have an existential crisis right now.
But it's just the environment we grew up in. We're accustomed to it, and I suppose that's the human adaptability thing coming in. It just seems normal to us. But yeah,
Just be aware sometimes.
yeah, it's just
take like now. Just take a little break and look
Still-
what's around you.
still freaks me out sometimes. Look out the window, it's like, oh yeah, it's all working. Weird.
Someone somewhere could just decide not to come into work today.
The planes aren't
Hang on.
falling out of the sky. That's weird. That's weird,
Yeah.
right? It works somehow.
Oh yeah, the planes. Forgot about
Yeah,
those.
you get on a plane. Do you know how a plane works? Do you know how the engine works? Do you know why the wings cause it to lift you?
If the communication goes down for like 2 minutes, there they are. They've gotten to someone else's flight path. You go boom boom like. That's it.
That's it.
Sweet dreams.
There's the thought I want to leave you with, guys. Why are there wings on planes?
And that's the end of the day tonight.
If you're sick of them, well.
Talk to you now.